listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. As always, a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to all of those great shows to get great Patriots content all week long. But tonight, it's your boy Pat Lane here with my guy Matt St. Jean. And Matt, the Patriots have moved on officially from Stefon Diggs. Arguably the most famous receiver they've had since Randy Moss? I don't know.
If we're not counting Rob Gronkowski in there, yes.
Yeah. You know, I mean, like, right. Yeah, just as far as like public notoriety is concerned, Stefon Diggs is a guy who's, you know, a superstar player, right? I think, in my personal opinion, I think it's a top 3 contract, free agent contract the Patriots have signed in the last 15 years. You know, like I really do. I don't know.
The Diggs contract?
Yes.
I don't even know if the Diggs contract was a top 3 contract they signed last offseason.
That's outrageous. That's an outrageous statement.
I mean, Milton Williams, and then if you want to go by like some of the steals that they had, a number of those defensive role players that they got for pennies on the dollar, I feel like were pretty impressive.
Stop it.
I mean, we're just going by value.
So here's the thing, right? And this is the big thing. I think the intrinsic value of it is larger than just what you got out of it on the field, right? You sign him. First of all, you sign him to a deal that looked like a lot of money, but you were able to get out of the majority of it after 1 year, right? It's a 3-year deal, but you were able to get out of the majority of it after the first year. That's number one. He put up 1,000 yards receiving, right? 85 catches and 1,000 yards, like.
I just, the fact that you can get out of it after 1 year, though, is a nice safeguard. But
right.
I mean, in an ideal world, he's just good enough that you want to keep him all 3 years, right?
I mean, I guess. Right. But he's 33. Like, I here's what I'll tell you. I think if you had signed him, if you had brought him back this year, that he would have performed probably just about as well as he performed last year. Right? Fair?
Maybe. I just think it's hard to tell with receivers
of course
that age.
Right.
And I mean, I think there are good arguments for him performing better, even being a year further removed away from an ACL injury.
Right.
I also look at receivers that age and how he played at the end of the season, and it's like, I don't know. It's possible the last we saw of Stefon Diggs being like that Stefon Diggs was him like mossing that dude in New York against the Jets, or maybe that great catch he makes against the Texans. But
the Texans, yeah. Yeah, no, listen, I'm with you on that. I think the other part of it for me is that this has become a destination. And I don't want to say it's just because of Stefon Diggs, but like they showed that this offense can take a superstar receiver and here's your 1,000-yard season from a guy coming off an ACL injury who's 32 years old, right? Like, so you can drop someone in here and you're a number 1 receiver in the NFL. Now, here's what I will tell you. Okay. Yeah, I get it, right? Like that's a large part of that is because of Drake May. And obviously a large part of that is because of what Mike Vrabel's doing and the rest of the guys on the team. But I think that Diggs being that guy and being that kind of guy, right? Seeing him buy in, seeing how much he cared about this team this year, I think sells it a little bit more so, in my opinion.
Fair. I mean, I think he was a massive leader for the offense too. And it's when we talk about like the best contracts they handed out last year, 2 that come to mind. It's Diggs being an offensive captain and Robert Spillane being a defensive captain. And having those guys come in with leadership roles. It's something we talked about, you know, comparing to the 0-1 team where it's like, all right, we're going to go get some dudes from outside the building that we think can bring some leadership in, some proven veteran guys. And those guys really nailed those roles. That's one of the things, like, I think Diggs was awesome. I think when it comes to the leadership stuff, Spillane did all of that for that side of the ball at a lower cost. and without off-field concerns that Diggs brings to the table. So we talk about contracts. Like, I love that Spillane one for what he brings. But I do think this was one of the savvier contracts. You know what this contract reminds me of a little bit, Pat?
What's that?
It's the 2014 Darrelle Revis.
Yeah.
Similar in like you put years on the deal, are probably not going to happen because you want him for the 1 year. It's just different goal in mind. When you bring in Revis, this is a finishing piece on what we think can be a championship roster. Diggs this is the elevating piece so that we can give our quarterback, the best chance we can to develop.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, you got that out of it. He taught the younger receivers. He was a leader in that locker room. He was the, kind of the juice guy before the games and stuff. I just think that that stuff matters. And so we'll see. And goalie actually says too, like, he's not ruling out Diggs coming back on a cheaper deal. I would be surprised by that, but if his market isn't as big as he thinks it's going to be, maybe he does come back here on a 2-year deal or something like that. I just think someone's going to pay him.
Yeah, I think so. I wonder, one of the things that came to mind here, does he just go on the second-year QB mercenary route here and go to, like, Tennessee to go play with Cam Ward?
Could. He could.
That was interesting. Or, like, Washington with Jaden Daniels, I think would probably be interesting to them as someone cheaper they could invest in. I don't know. It's going to be – I'm very curious to see where he ends up. You could tell from the outpouring of support from now former teammates how much the guys in the locker room liked him as a football player and what he brought, and I'm sure that's going to be appealing to the next place. I also won't be surprised if he doesn't sign anywhere until after his court stuff starts to clear up and you start to get a clearer picture of what's going on there.
That's certainly true. That's certainly a good point as well. So yeah, we'll see. I would think he's going to want to sign somewhere where he can try to win a championship. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I would think that's what he's going to want, but we'll see. So the Diggs thing is interesting. I was just off the top of my head, right? I was just thinking, and again, maybe top 3 might be a little much, but top 5, only because I'm thinking Milton Williams, right? Gilmore and Revis.
I think Gilmore, Revis. Kyle Van Noy a trade or
Kyle Van Noy was a trade. Welker was a trade. Moss, those are years ago, but Welker was a trade. Moss was a trade. Like, all those guys were trades. You know what I mean?
Chris Hogan was an RFA. I don't know how we want to feel about that here.
Yeah, but
different. Those are apples and oranges. I think it's kind of tough to compare those types of moves. Like, where do you put someone like Brandon LaFell, who was cheap but then catches some massive passes for you in a Super Bowl run?
Yeah, no, it's Brandon LaFell's a good one. Well, you know what I mean?
Well, I do think the when you talk about best contract too, there's different perspectives. If we're talking about savviest from a GM perspective, to minimize risk while also getting something for your team and putting yourself in a position where you can get a lot out of a player and also cut bait at just the right time, it might be number 1 there. The Patriots haven't signed a lot of contracts where you're looking at it like that. It's almost the opposite of the Antonio Brown situation where you bring him in, he plays 1 game, and then you're saddled with a massive cap hit for it.
Yeah, it's very true. And I think the other part of it for me is that I think it's the after effects of it. It's the fact that he leaves and now the Patriots are a destination, right? Now the Patriots are somewhere we want to come play. And again, that's not all just because of Stefon Diggs, but I think that he helped that in the fact that you have a superstar wide receiver. He's dating Cardi B. It's cool. It's fine. Everything he worked, he's a little bit of a diva, but he still bought in. He still played. He still was there. He still worked hard, all those things. And, still had the time with Vrabel and still, whatever. So I think that part of it for me is that little extra added part of it where you sign Chris Hogan. It's a great signing by Chris to sign Chris Hogan, but you're already a championship roster. You know what I mean? You're just trying to fill it out.
In LaFell, those are finisher pieces. It's
right.
A different Amendola. I don't even know if we would call Amendola a great contract because they kept asking him to take pay cuts.
Yeah. Right.
I will say, I do think if we're right in this story, we're looking back 10 years from now. If the Patriots do continue this success, we're going to talk about Stefon Diggs, but what we're really going to talk about is Drake May's ascension this year and what that means for becoming a destination and all that. And if the Patriots stumble here, obviously that'll fall on Drake May, but then no one's going to be talking about this as savvy. Like you might be talking about this as, wow, you could have had him and you let him go.
100%. Yeah.
So I do think, how we look at this, what comes next is going to be massively important for that. I will say we were talking last week, and I think this is what I expected to happen, because you look at the cap hit for Stefon Diggs to stay in New England would have been $26.5 million this year and the next year.
Right.
He's going to be 33. You're not going to do that. There's only two ways to reduce that cap hit. One of them was to tack more years onto the deal, which you're not going to do when the entire concern here is longevity and injury history and performance.
Mm-hmm.
And also, off-field stuff. You don't want to tack years on, and then the court stuff's a problem, and this is an anchor on your cap for 4 years. You don't want that to happen. The only other way is to literally just ask him to take less money while you take a pay cut. Stefon Diggs is not taking a pay cut.
Right.
So that kind of leaves you here, where the only path forward is to cut him. And it is kind of a funny, weird middle ground. Like, there was a world where the Patriots signed Diggs. He's clearly not the same person after the ACL, and you just cut him and no one's thinking twice about it. And there's a world where he has 1,200, 1,300 yards, and he's a really good player in the playoffs, and we're like, all right, yeah, we're in. Let's keep him. This is This is one of those very small part of a very small range of outcomes where you think the season he had was a success, and you're not interested at all in actually keeping him for the contract. Like, this is, I don't know how many other ways he could have gotten to that point.
Not many. I would agree with you on that. There's certainly not many of them, right? And it's kind of funny. You think about Randy Moss. Obviously, a very different situation, right? Randy Moss comes in and is an absolute legend in 2007, but he puts up 1,000 yards in 2008 and then 1,200 yards in 2009. And then by the time 2010 comes around, he's kind of had it and he's not happy and, kind of shoots his way out of town. Right.
Yeah.
And I could see that happening with Diggs. And so the fact that they're able to get out of the contract now before that happens, I think is just smart, right? It's just smart business by the Patriots, and move on, and everyone's happy. Diggs is going to get another contract somewhere. Now, you're going to get guys that want to come in and want to play, and you can point to what Diggs did with May, and then we all part ways amicably.
Well, I think when we talk about this, we have to talk about the other half of the equation here. When we've talked about the Diggs contract situation, the only reason we've said maybe you just keep him on the $26.5 million cap hit is, what if you can't find someone else? Like, if you cut him, does that mean you're locking yourself into drafting a wide receiver in the first round? Does that mean overpaying someone like Romeo Doubs, like giving him wide receiver 1 money because you think you need a receiver? Does that mean that you're trying to talk yourself into, I'm looking at the list of receivers that are out there right now, trying to talk yourself into one of these, random free agents being someone good for you, like trying to, Jawan Jennings, trying to convince yourself this guy can be our wide receiver 1. I like Jawan Jennings a lot. He's not that guy. And I think the news out of Indy, literally with the combine, and literally with the franchise over the past 7 days, where you get the intel that they're not tagging Alec Pierce. They're going to transition tag Daniel Jones instead. Probably has a lot to do with this, because I think take George Pickens out of the equation because he's already been tagged. There's only one guy who could have hit the market this year where you think that kind of production, that kind of impact can be even somewhat replicated in New England next season, and that's Alec Pierce. The fact that now he's hitting the market, or at least it appears he's going to hit the market, that actually gives you, an off-ramp where you think you can be the same or better next year while also cutting Diggs just in the receiver room.
100%, right? And Thad kind of says it here too. Like, there's no way the Patriots cut Diggs with a backup plan, right? Like, and this is exactly what we were talking about, right? Where it's one of those things where I think Alec Pierce, to me, is the clear choice here. With the DJ Moore trade we'll talk about for Buffalo, I'm not I personally don't think that was a great deal by Buffalo, especially with the money that they're paying him the next few years. I just
Do we want to get into the DJ Moore trade now?
yeah, sure, we can get a DJ Moore. So the Bills trade their second round pick for DJ Moore and a fifth round pick to Chicago. And I don't know. I just don't get it, right? And I think the Bills guaranteed like $15 million of his 2028 contract.
I believe I don't know the exact details on it, but I'm guessing there's like some signing bonus or playing around with the bonuses. Basically, I think to fit him under the cap this year for
Right.
Buffalo, they kicked cap hits out, and this is what we talked about with Diggs. You can do that. You can put things on the credit card, so to speak, and pay it into the future. Just means that you're locking yourself into having that player for longer.
Right.
I thought the second round pick for DJ Moore was rich.
I agree. And even if you don't, right? Even if you're looking at it saying, we won't have that guy around, you're still paying for him, right? It doesn't matter whether you have him or not. You can cut him if you want, but now you're still paying for him. And so, I look at it and just think, I don't love that trade for Buffalo. I get it. I understand. Like Buffalo's looking at it saying, we need a number one wide receiver. We think that DJ Moore can be a number one wide receiver. I don't know if he can be a number one wide receiver. We've seen flashes from him. He had a really good year in Chicago his first year. But, what did he do his second and third year in Chicago? Not much, right? He's been in decline, right? The last few years. And I just think, there could be a ton of different reasons for that. But they're a pretty damn good team last year. Pretty damn good team this year, right? And Rome Odunze takes a big step forward. And, at the end of the season, Luther Burden takes a step forward for them. So you just kind of feel like DJ Moore, I guess is their number one, but really isn't their number one anymore. And so they're willing to move on from him. I didn't love the trade for Buffalo. I know it makes them better. Right. But I think they looked at it and said, we don't know how much better Pierce makes us, which I think is crazy, but we don't know how much better Pierce makes us. We don't love anyone. We're not trading a ton of picks for AJ Brown. And so let's just go get this guy instead.
Well, I don't think the Bills had the cap space to go get Pierce if they wanted to.
That's also a fair point.
I think is a mitigating factor here. That's why the Moore deal is structured the way it is.
Right.
I think DJ Moore is a good player. I think this makes Buffalo better in 2026. I am skeptical about how much it makes Buffalo better in 2027 and in 2028 when they're still going to be paying him a lot of money and are not going to have any flexibility or really ability to get out of that as far as I can tell. DJ Moore's been healthy the last 3 seasons. He's played in every game. He's gone from just under 1,400 yards to just under 1,000 yards to now under 700 yards this past season. He's going to be 29 years old. He's not old, but this is the part where you start to see drop-offs with receivers a lot of the time, and he's not someone who wins because he's highly technical in what he does. He's very athletic, very good after the catch, very good at the catch point, and able to make big plays. And I wouldn't be surprised if with a kind of a fresh start and a receiver or a quarterback like Josh Allen, it looks really good year one, and then the longer it's there, it's like it's okay. Like it's not. He's not a wide receiver 1 anymore. He's a high end 2 right now, I believe, and that's better than what they had.
100%.
But and I don't remember if I texted you or someone else this earlier, but it feels like the Bills are following the Ravens and building a wide receiver core of guys that will absolutely blow it for you at some point in the play. Like they're good enough to get you to the playoffs. They're
bad enough to lose it for you. Yeah.
Like Zay Flowers, Brandon Cooks last year. And, we saw DJ Moore do it this past season in Chicago with, questionable effort running a route in overtime of a playoff game.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Not ideal.
Look, I'm not mad about this as a Patriots fan.
Right. And I think from a Buffalo perspective, you're looking at it saying, okay, well, we don't have a choice here, right? Like, we have Josh Allen. We have to make our receiver room better. We can't sign a guy, so let's try to trade for a guy instead. and, just kind of see what we can do. And that's exactly what they did here. They went out and they got, and they got the guy that they could get. And, that's fine. Like, that's it's okay. I think that's okay. It just, I don't know. That's
that doesn't move the needle
really. I mean, that's the thing. You're better, but are you good enough to win? And maybe they are. I don't know. They were almost good enough to win with, Brandon Cooks as their wide receiver 1. So who knows? But yeah, I just don't think it moves the needle enough. But hey, good for us. I'm happy that it doesn't move the needle enough, and maybe they can pull something else out. Maybe they can't. Who knows?
Well, probably worth noting here that this cap space can't go to re-signing offensive linemen. That line is going to take a step back next year. The identity of this team has kind of been, we're going to have a great offensive line and great running back in Josh Allen. And as long as we have that, we're going to be in great shape. And in the big moments, Josh will put his superhero cape on. And we just need one receiver to make a play somewhere. And we're going to be good. And, Shakir's a good player. And Josh Palmer was hurt this year, but is someone, I don't know if he's going to stick around, but someone I like.
Josh Palmer is like the he's like the Aaron Rodgers meme, where it's like the best thing that Aaron Rodgers did was almost be Tom Brady. Like, like if Tom Brady had played for the New England Patriots, or if Bill Belichick had been Aaron Rodgers' coach in Green Bay, he would have won 10 championships. Like, Josh Palmer is like that, where it's like, oh, dude, he would be so good if he could be healthy, and he's just literally never healthy.
He played.
And so it's like,
he played 17 games as a rookie and has not played 17 games since 16, 10, 15, 12.
Yeah.
And he's not a bad player. He's just like a wide receiver 3 or 4.
Right.
He's not super dissimilar from like what Brandon LaFell was. Like,
yeah.
You're just asking for him to have one good season. It's just, you look at this Bills roster, the tight end room is kind of the same thing. If they get rid of Dawson Knox, which I think they will, Kincaid is really explosive as a receiver, not a blocker. Jackson Hall is really good as a blocker, not a receiver.
Right.
So it kind of feels like it feels like they have built a team around a superstar in the receiving corps somewhere that doesn't actually exist. All of these guys are really good complementary pieces to, I guess, whatever Keon Coleman was supposed to be. Like,
right.
And now the offensive line is going to get worse. And that defense, honestly, on paper, that defense is not good. It's just that Sean McDermott's a good defensive coach. So they were able to paper over. Be good.
Yeah, I dropped my phone. Sorry about that.
They were able to paper over some of it because Sean McDermott's good at what he does. Well, now he's not there anymore. So I like that defense needs some talent, and they're not a bad team. The Bills will be a playoff team next year. This makes them better in the receiver room than they were last year. Is it a smart long-term move? Like I think that in a couple of years, it's going to be like, man, I wish we could have had a little extra cap space to make this move, and they're not going to have it.
Yeah,
it's totally true. They got to pay TJ more.
Well, it's funny. It's funny when you look at what they did with Keon Coleman, and it feels a lot like what the Patriots did with both N'Keal Harry and Jalen Polk, right? And I guess to a certain extent, Tyquan Thornton. Like, you swing and a miss on a guy so badly that he just isn't that good, right? And I think that, like, now it's like, oh crap, okay, you swing and a miss. Now you're like, oh, now what do we do? We got to like figure out a way to make this better. And for the Patriots, right, with Polk and with Thornton and even with Harry after Brady, that's all post Brady, except for obviously Thornton. Harry was Brady's last year, but like it's all post Brady. So it was like our team stinks, so we're just going to try to like build around this guy. The Bills are a great team still, right? And so it's like, now you're stuck because you have this great quarterback. You have a team that's that Super Bowl caliber, quote unquote, right? And you look at it and say, well, we have to do something because we can't just have our receiving corps be terrible because we completely whiffed on a pick in the second round, right? And so, you get into that situation where you look at it and I don't know, it's crazy.
You're trying to, I don't know, feel like the Bills organization has been constantly trying to just like be in fixing mistakes mode, whether it be the Keon Coleman draft or the 13 seconds game. Like it feels like they're always trying to win a battle from the previous season instead of actually. I think the only thing that organization has done that was good, positive, forward thinking was building out the offensive line the way they did.
Agreed.
Because that's what it takes in the modern NFL, and they're about to lose that here. Maybe they're able to fix it losing David Edwards. Maybe they can paper over that. But like, I don't know. This was your best strength on offense with the run game and Cook outside of what Josh Allen brings to the table. And if you lose that, you're asking that Josh Allen to do a lot, and DJ Moore will help there. Like we've said, it's a good team, but the Bills feel more like a 10 or 11 win team than a 13 or 14 win team to me.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that. By the way, Nikhil keeps talking about how the Patriots don't play their rookie receivers. I thought they played Kyle Williams a decent amount, right? Fairly, not a ton, but like enough. He certainly had some plays, and Polk and Thornton and Harry, they all stink. They're all not good.
Yeah. The reason they don't play the receivers they've drafted is because the receivers they've drafted have not been good enough to get on the field. Like that's
right. Thornton was their number one wide receiver going into what was that 2023, and he was gone. No, was it 2024? It was 2024.
When he also couldn't stay healthy,
and he just was awful, and he was hurt. So it's like, how could they play him?
Aaron Dobson played a ton as a rookie, produced well, and that still didn't even end up helping him.
Right. It's true. Also, Old Man Mom mentions here too, the Bills overpaying for DJ Moore screws the Patriots when it comes to AJ Brown, which it does. It does, and I think that's one of those things where, like, if you wanted AJ Brown here on the Patriots, now you have to give up a first round plus for AJ Brown. You have to. You don't have a choice. Because DJ Moore just went for a second round pick, right? If DJ Moore is going for a second, AJ Brown's definitely going for a first, at least. And Philadelphia doesn't really want to trade him either. So, I just don't
like. The way I've seen the AJ Brown situation from the beginning is that with the way the cap works, at least if you're going to trade him before June, it makes no sense for the Eagles to trade him for anything less than a first round pick, because they have to take on a lot of cap space just to get rid of him. The only reason you're doing there's two reasons you're doing that. You're trying to get him out of the building, or someone offered you a lot. I think the Eagles are still in that someone offered us a lot mode. Problem is, if you're another team, like AJ Brown is still good. I think by yards per route run, he was still like a top 20 receiver this year. He can be productive when he's targeted. He's also clearly not as good as he was 2 years ago. I think just when you watch him physically, he does not move as well. Those knees really concern me. He's on a Super Bowl winning team, and he doesn't want to be there. I think locker room concerns are very real with him. And again, like, it doesn't mean he's going to be a bad player somewhere, but it means you have to give up a lot in draft capital to take on a guy with a big contract who you have major injury and locker room concerns with. That's a lot for someone to take on. So sure. I don't think anyone's offering more than a second round pick for him. Even though AJ Brown's a better receiver than DJ Moore, when you look at the other factors around this, I don't think anyone goes above a second. And even then, like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that if I'm New England, just because of some of the other factors. And maybe I would, but I'd have to think about that a little bit more. I don't think the AJ Brown situation gets resolved until much closer to camp, though. I don't think he gets moved until later. And I wonder if these AJ Brown and Stefon Diggs things end up being something that, drags into training camp here with Diggs and his court date and Brown and his cap situation.
And I kind of agree with you on that. And one of those interesting things for me is, like, this could be a situation that's similar to, like, Terry McLaurin last year, where, like, McLaurin clearly didn't want to be there and, wasn't going to play, and then got a new deal and ended up playing, right? This could be, this could be Brandon Ayuk. Like, what an absolute disaster Brandon Ayuk is. what's so crazy about it is that he's a free agent this year. Yeah.
I think it's a question right now if he even wants to continue playing football.
So that's what I mean. Like I don't know.
That's where I will say the Brandon Ayuk situation is weird because when he signed that contract, he was one of the top 5, probably at least top 10 receivers in the NFL. He got hurt.
Right.
Basically decided he didn't want to rehab it, and he's kind of done. Like, that's kind of how it feels. And I feel bad for the 49ers in this because there's no way of knowing if that's how that's going to pan out.
Right. Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange. So I don't really know how that's going to play out. But the AJ Brown thing just seems weird. It just seems strange to me. And so do you want to hang him around? Do you want to have him there for OTAs and mini camp and then training camp? Like, I don't want to do all that stuff. If I'm the Eagles, either I'm going to move him or I'm not, right? Like, either like I'm going to move him now or I'm like, hey, deal with it. Suck it up. You're playing for us. Like, that's it.
Well, he doesn't. If they trade him now, they have to take on $20 million extra dollars against their cap in 2026. If they move him after June 1st, they will save $7 million. That's a $27 million difference.
Yeah.
I don't think the situation resolves before then unless Brown makes it untenable.
That I agree with. That part of it I agree with. So that's what's interesting about it is that.
Well, the other thing, if he makes it untenable to the point where the Eagles are like, we just got to get rid of this guy, even if we're willing to take on a $20 million extra cap hit this year, what is the incentive for other teams to look at that and say, well, we're going to up our offer?
Right. Yeah.
You want to get rid of this guy so badly. What are we doing to help you out? Like, are you willing to take all this on? He's that bad?
Well, and I think the other part of it for me is that if it's after June 1st, you're 100% not trading a first-round pick. Because now you're trading a future first-round pick, and there's no chance that I'm trading a future first-round pick.
And by then, the cap situation is different, and the Eagles are probably willing to take a little bit less.
Right.
I still think the way this all plays out probably is that they convince him to stay for one more year and try to move him at the deadline. The way that the Eagles timeline works on paper, it should be one last go with this group this year and then a lot of easy outs for guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's in their best interest to tell AJ, hey, we're going to do our best to trade you. If we can't, buy in for one more year. It'll be good for you. It'll be good for us. We're going to go for a championship run. And if you produce, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for us to trade you to someone.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. It's a weird situation. He also has they're no longer massive cap hits, just the way the cap's going, but 22, 27, $29 million cap hits the rest of the way. It's still DJ Moore money. I'd rather have AJ Brown for that than DJ Moore personally.
For sure, yeah.
But, it's not peanuts. And it's those knees, man. He's had multiple operations on them. He's a physically very big player. Like I remember how Gronk looked by the end. There was a point where you could tell with all of the joint injuries he'd had that he just wasn't moving the same.
Yeah.
And AJ Brown is like, I don't know, what if you're trading for him, but you're actually getting like 2018 Gronk, that version of AJ Brown, where he's still really good, but you're also like, man, we're nearing the end on this.
Right. Yeah, and that's something you can't have. That's something you just can't have. So
it's just a lot of risk if you're asking someone to give up a first.
I agree. So I don't know.
Right.
Let's do an ad read and then
talk other options.
Yep. So of course, as you obviously know, this ad is for Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is hold on, where am I? Sorry, I'm going to start that over because I didn't have my thing pulled up. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss the chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. Again, The new feature alert, early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Now, remember, Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Pick from all your favorite sports, anything from basketball, baseball, hockey, UFC, soccer, college basketball, tennis, golf, esports, and even more than that. All right? What you're going to do, download the app Prize Picks, put in the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Okay. All right. Dude, Nikhil's losing his mind over there. So, but that's okay. All right. Anyways, what are we talking
Something
about?
about Hunter Henry and Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers stinks, and Stefon Diggs the scrub, and what are we doing here, man? Anyways, craziness. So
What do you want them to do at receiver?
So what I want them to do at receiver is I want them to sign Alec Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to move Kayshon Boutte. I think I want him to move Kayshon Boutte into the Stefon Diggs role. But I'm okay with him playing somewhere else other than that. But I think that, you can have Pierce and Boutte on the field at the same time. And then you still have Mac Hollins. You still have Kyle Williams. You still have Pop Douglas on the roster as well. And then you can draft a guy on day 3 and just see, like, hey, maybe this guy pans out. Maybe he doesn't, but maybe he does. Like, you have enough guys on the roster that it's not a big deal if they don't. But if they do, then you've hit on someone as well. So I think that's, for me, that's what I would like to do.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I want to start with the Alec Pierce part of this. First of all, I'm curious what his market looks like. It's probably going to get to something stupid because he's the best free agent receiver on the market right now.
Yeah.
Just some notes on this. With 25 years old, he is in his athletic prime. Right now. He was a freak tester back at the combine. I believe 4.40.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
But he has a volleyball background. Very good at the catch point. Yeah, he ran 4.4140 is what it was. He was 88th percentile for the broad jump, 93rd percentile for the vertical jump, all while being 6'3", 211. So massive guy, runs fast, jumps high. All good things. And you've seen that kind of year over year slowly, but consistently get better for him at the NFL level. He comes out of the draft a little bit on the younger side. Okay, so he's actually going to be 26. He was 22 as a rookie.
Yeah.
But, 500 yards in each of his first 2 seasons, then 800, then 1,000 this year. Over 20 yards per reception in the last 2 seasons. He's led the NFL in yards per reception in consecutive years. He's never had more than 47 receptions in a season is probably the downside. He's not necessarily a consistent, or has not been used as a consistent chain mover, we're going to throw to this guy.
I mean, he had
10
47
times a game.
receptions last year. So, you know.
And also 1,000 yards. He had 10 fewer yards than Stefon Diggs had.
Yeah.
While playing, I think, 2 fewer games. He played 15 games. Diggs played, I believe, in all 17.
He had 38 less catches.
Yep. He
38 less catches.
Capital E explosive.
Yeah.
He plays almost exclusively at the X outside the numbers. He's big body. He's going to run goes. He's going to run digs. He's going to run slants. He's going to run curls, comebacks. All of those traditional X receiver type things he does. I think he can do more. He hasn't been asked to do more, I think, because of the strengths of the other guys in that offense.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I look at a guy like that, able to get him in his athletic prime with the consistent improvement he has had. Seems like someone who will probably at least stay where he has been in production or maybe improve. You add that to the fact that his greatest ability is go deep, jump high, catch the ball. You pair that with Drake May, and in theory, the ceiling on this thing is, dare I say, an '07 Randy Moss type thing. Maybe not with that many catches, but just in terms of, all right, 4 or 5 teams a game, we're just throwing it deep to this guy. We're going to see what happens.
Right. Well, I think the other part of that too is that you have a very good deep ball receiver in Kayshon Boutte. You have a super fast receiver in Kyle Williams, right? You add someone like Alec Pierce to this offense, and all of a sudden, the speed that you have on this team with Kyle Williams, Travion Henderson, Alec Pierce, just the big play ability. You look at what Pop Douglas did at times. Like, all of a sudden now you become an explosive offense. And that, for me, is something that I just think is great. And I look at it and say, okay, well, yeah, he's worth it. And I don't care what the price tag is. It doesn't matter. It's just money. It doesn't make a difference. Like, it doesn't matter. The Patriots have a ton of money. They're making money hand over fist. Guess what, Robert? My prices, my season tickets went up this year. You can afford it. Right? I'm paying a little extra this year. And oh, by the way, I'm paying a little extra this year, and we have one less regular season home game. Explain that one to me. So we have 2 preseason games instead of 1, and only 8 regular season games instead of 9, and the price of the tickets still went up this year. So he can afford it. He can afford it.
They also just got like private investment in the team, right? So he sold off some of the shares. So that's a cash inflow. I don't know what these. I know there's talk going around that we're hearing the cheap thing again about Robert Kraft right now, which started like 2 days ago. I don't get this one. He literally they just had one of the biggest free agent spending sprees in NFL history last offseason, and also they just spent a ton of money on a new training facility that's debuting this year.
Yeah. Well, listen, if they had paid $63 million guaranteed to a free agent last year, right? $63 million guaranteed in one contract. And they would never do that. Unfortunately, they would never do that. And so because they would never do that, he has to be cheap. Oh, wait. Shoot, Milton Williams signed a 4-year, $104 million contract with $63 million guaranteed. Oh, shoot, that's my bad. Sorry about that. It's just stupid. It's stupid. And it's honestly what it is it's Felger and Maz permeates this thing, and they just call them cheap. Because it doesn't, there's nothing else to it. They just call it cheap. And it's just and that's just dumb. It's stupid.
Well, here's the thing. The Patriots have 2 of the biggest spending sprees in NFL history since COVID in the last 5 years. I'm sorry, as a fan, you should know that and remember that they have spent that money. And it's there are very valid criticisms of Robert Kraft. I think, the leaked NFLPA reports. I think it's pretty, side note, the plane thing. I want to touch on this just for 1 second. I think it's one of the funniest things to me. I really do think it's kind of the opposite of being, I don't know if it's the opposite of being cheap. They bought their own planes for the team. Right. And it's pretty clear that whatever it is about them, it's just the players just really do not like these planes. I'm also there's reports, the people saying that the landings felt unsafe. That's not the plane. Maybe you have an issue with the pilot, or maybe it was a weird airport, or
yeah, but
I don't know.
I've heard that there's still ashtrays in some of the
there's
seats.
They reported that last year. There's photos inside the plane that don't seem to show ashtrays.
Yeah, and maybe not. Right?
I
also think too, if you're gonna own a plane, right, like that, every seat in there should be a first class seat. Now,
they should retrofit it to make it better on the inside.
I mean, that's the thing. Every seat on that plane should be a first class seat, especially when you're dealing with guys that are, 6'6", 300 pounds.
Yeah.
It's just, so I don't know what it looks like. I almost feel like it would be cheaper just to rent planes and fly them. I don't know. I
do wonder if it is cheaper to buy the planes, because once you have the planes, you don't have to pay again. Was probably the idea with it. Probably need to retrofit it. I'm also like, I don't know, I looked at the NFLPA reports and like basically it seemed like a lot of the things either were better or they had done things that will make like the training camps, like a lot of the things are like being fixed by the new training facility they brought in, at least in theory. If the players don't like the new facility, maybe they don't like the new facility, but at least that's not a money problem. They built a whole new thing. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but they invested in it.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. A side note, I have what do you call it? Opposite opinions at the same time on the NFLPA report stuff.
Conflicting opinions. Got it.
Yes, one of them. Thank you for that. I forgot English for a second. Thankfully, that's not important. One, the owners, lame as hell for deciding that no one gets to see these.
Right.
Clearly thin-skinned, clearly hate the fact that it allows them to be called out for specific things and allows the fans to get on them for it.
Yep.
The other thing about this, I kind of don't know exactly how seriously to take the reports. I would like if when these reports are sent out, players are given specific criteria on how to grade things so that we know how to interpret it. Because like we've had two of these too. There's no context. There's nothing to anchor this to. So like, I don't really know how to compare any of these grades to anything else. The comments that are left, I think, are illustrating, and those are really helpful for understanding parts of it. But like, I don't know how to tell a difference between one team getting a B- for something and another team getting a B+ for that same thing.
Right. I think
especially when the outside they look identical too.
Well, and that's the other part of it. I think the only thing I really care about for me is if you're getting an A versus an F. Like, for the most part, I just look at it and say, yeah, like whatever. The middle of the road is the middle of the road. It's fine. You don't have to have all A's. You don't want to have F's.
Well, you look at the teams that have all A's. You look at the teams at the top. There's a lot of teams that aren't good up there. Right. Well, it's like also like the Miami Dolphins are up there, and that is not considered like a well-run organization
because they live in Miami.
Yeah, you're in Miami, and the owner's rich, and I'm sure the facilities are like physically nice in a lot of ways.
Right.
But like, it's also probably colored by the fact that you're in Miami, and like the weather is always nice, and that's where it's like hard to know how to take the grading seriously. It's also going to be impacted by just like the specific human beings. Like maybe the training room is fine and like, or not, we'll say in general, a training room is fine. And one player moves to the team from a place where he had a nicer one. He's like, oh, this sucks. I'm going to give this an F. And then another free agent comes in from a place that had a worse one. He's like, well, this is so much better. I'm going to give it an A. It's like, all right, well, now this means nothing to me. I have no clue how good this actually is from these. So they're not going to continue doing them, but if they did, I would love specific rubrics and stuff, and some way objectively for the players to grade it on specific criteria going on with each of these things. Also with the coaching, it's like that just feels like a opinion. Like it's like how much what do you call it? It's like favorability. It's like okay, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't care if you like the coach. I care if the coach gets wins.
Right. Some of it is, whatever. But I will say like that it does help. It helps having a good coach. That's helpful.
You know who also didn't get good grades as coaches this year? One of them got fired, but 2-time coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski, I think was near the bottom.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh was near the bottom of that list. That to me is like, okay. And the guys in LA generally seem bought in. So like,
yeah.
Are you saying he's just not that nice?
Maybe.
That's fine. You're allowed to think he's not that nice. I don't know if that's a slight.
Yeah, it's strange. It's a strange situation. So,
back to receiver.
But anyways, yeah, no, I just think the receiver stuff for me is I don't know what the Patriots are going to do ultimately. I don't think the path forward is a rookie in the first round. I think you can draft a rookie at some point. I just don't think it's a rookie in the first round. And I don't think. Especially, so the $27 million is interesting because that means it has to be after June 1st. And if it has to be after June 1st, to me, I think that it doesn't make sense to the Patriots unless the Eagles are willing to come down significantly on price. If you sign Alec Pierce for a lot of money, right? Whatever it is. $25, $30 million. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. Like the cap went up exponentially again this year. It's going to do the same thing next year. Like they're just making so much money that they just have a ton of cap room. those guys are going to get paid. They're going to get a lot of money. Just is what it is. So fine, you overpay for Alec Pierce. But again, this is one of those interesting situations where he's 26 years old. He's 26. Like, you're paying him betting that his best years are ahead of him. You're not paying him for what he's done already. You're paying him a little bit for what he's done already. But for the most part, you're paying him for what you think he can do in the future.
Yeah.
Milton Williams was a guy that they did the same exact thing with, where they said, hey, he was great in the playoffs. We think he can be even better because he can play more. You might look at Alec Pierce and say, man, unbelievable deep ball guy. We think that he can be even better than that. So we're gonna pay him top of the market money because that's what it's going to take to get him in the door. And then we're going to, deploy him in situations that is going to be advantageous to him, that's going to help him. And we're also going to have him running different routes. And all of a sudden, instead of catching 45 passes or 47 passes, whatever it was, he's catching 70 passes instead. And I think that makes a huge difference. Now, all of a sudden, you're saying, yeah, we're going to hit him over the top, but he's going to run slants, and he's going to run comebacks, and he's going to run ins, and he's going to run dig routes. He's going to run all sorts of different things. And I just think that, that to me is one of the things that I think they're going to do. And I think that that's what I want them to do. Continue to build Kyle Williams up. Continue to build Kayshon Boutte up, right? Maybe even Pop Douglas. Like, continue to build those guys up so that now you can grow. And then if June 1st comes around and the Eagles are willing, and no one wants to move for A.J. Brown, and the Eagles are willing to send you a trade where you're trading, next year's second-round pick for A.J. Brown, then I'm okay with that. Because now
Also,
you have A.J. Brown, Alec Pierce, and Kayshon Boutte, and you're sitting there saying, wow, okay, we feel good about this.
I don't think you have the money to do A.J. Brown and Alec Pierce.
You're probably
just because you have to sign offensive line here. You still have to sign edge. But I'm basically willing to go up to any amount with Alec Pierce that where you can still sign a quality edge and a quality offensive lineman. Like, I'm fine with a lot here, and a little more in the secondary too. You have to sign the safety. I'd be willing to spend a lot of money on him though, just because I think he's very good at what he does, and I think it'll age well. And I think with the way the camp's going up, I'm just not super worried about this being a bad contract. We talk about Alec Pierce being able to do more. I want to talk about how we could allow others to do more. And one specific player comes to mind here, Kayshon Boutte. You mentioned this before. Kayshon Boutte was not seen as an X coming out of college. His his sophomore season, before he gets injured that year, he gets used, and they call it the slinker role, slot or flanker, which means that you're going to be moving around. We can put you inside, we can put you outside, we can use you in a variety of ways. Boutte hasn't really gotten to do that in the NFL, so he just kind of keeps being forced into the X role.
Yeah.
That's why he's been a deep threat guy, because that's what he's being asked to do right now. If Pierce takes that role, who's better than Boutte at that, now Boutte gets to move around a little more, and he can still do that. He can still be a deep threat for you. Or you can ask him to run a lot more slants, or you can ask him to run a lot more digs, or you can put him in the slot and, get him off the line of scrimmage, put him in motion before the snap. All kinds of different stuff you're not doing with him right now to get more out of him, to put him in better positions for success. And then, you look at the rest of that wide receiver room. Pop as a natural speed slot in this, I think, would have a role. Mac Hollins still as a blocker would have a role. Kyle Williams is a speed guy. We can talk about a lineup where Pierce and Kyle Williams are going to be your outside receivers, and Kayshon Boutte is going to be your slot. I like that.
Or Mac Hollins
that,
at times, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something you can work with. And you still got room in here. If Afton Chisholm is able to give you anything, there's room here to draft receivers. I like Mac Hollins a lot. He's someone that can get played off this roster if other guys play well. I like Pop Douglas. He's someone that can get played off this roster if other guys play well. And if you throw a second or third round pick at receiver again and just keep throwing darts, it's like, all right, well, we have Mac Hollins, and now we're gonna have another guy, and we're gonna sign Kayshon Boutte, and we think we got a receiving core for the future. I think these pieces go well together. It's also probably worth noting that there are other teams out there that need receivers that might go bonkers for Pierce. Titans and Raiders.
Yeah. Well, and that's
young quarterbacks, massive amounts of cap space, more cap space than the
100%.
Patriots have.
Yeah, and so the question, and the Patriots are also going to have to sign Christian Gonzalez. They can do that this offseason or next. It doesn't really make a difference. I think
it'll be an extension too, so it wouldn't start to hit the books until 2028 anyway.
That's a fair point.
Yeah,
they could give him some money up front if they wanted to, right? A signing bonus of some sort, but that may not count against the cap. So, but I just think when I look at it and I say, okay, well, that's fine. I like all the stuff you're talking about. It makes a ton of sense. I think the sweet spot for me in the draft, if you are able to sign Alec Pierce, is the 4th round. You get 2 picks in the 4th round. I think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of it for me is that I also think that if Alec Pierce is choosing between the Raiders, the Titans, and the Patriots, it should be a pretty easy choice for him. Now, again, let's not sit here and say that, he's going to turn down 20 million less or 20 million more to come and play for the Patriots for less. That's not what I'm saying. But if the money is close, I think now you look at it and say, okay, I'd rather play in New England than in Tennessee or in Vegas, right? And I think that matters now. And that's part of it for the Patriots. And that's why I feel good about them bringing a guy like Pierce in, because it just works so perfectly. Drake May is the best deep ball thrower in the NFL. Alec Pierce is the best deep ball receiver in the NFL. He's led the NFL in yards per reception the last 2 years, right? Like, this is one of those things that, that's what he does. And so if he does that and May's good at it, it makes sense that they, and the Patriots have that need at receiver now, especially with letting Diggs go. It feels like that's what's going to happen. Of course, there's no way to know, but it feels like that's what's going to happen.
But I don't think the Patriots would have made this move with Diggs unless they thought there was a real chance they could get Pierce. I don't get this from Indy's perspective. It sure seems like Chris Ballard's job is on the line, the Colts GM, right?
Yeah.
So you're using up the rest of your cap space on a quarterback who has played 1.5 good seasons in his entire NFL career, coming off an Achilles injury. There's a chance that by the time Daniel Jones plays football again for the Colts, the GM, if not fired, is pretty clearly gonna be gone at the end of the season.
The only problem with that is that you don't have a choice. I don't think they really had a choice. You have to keep the quarterback. You have to.
I don't think the quarterback does not help you in 2026 is my big thing. If Daniel Jones plays, it's not going to be until after Thanksgiving, probably.
It's a fair point.
A guy who relies on his movement fresh off an Achilles tear. And, obviously we're going to find out real soon how Jason Tatum looks off the Achilles tear. But Daniel Jones did not get that immediate surgery that we've been told helped Tatum so much. I have no idea how athletic he's going to be. The two most recent examples of quarterbacks coming off Achilles tears, they did not look good the year after.
They sure didn't.
Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, obviously both much older. So, caveating that, if I'm Indy, I think this is a great spot for Malik Willis. Part of the Daniel Jones thing is that you feel very good about your coaches and your ability to coach up a quarterback. I think Malik Willis makes sense here. I think Kyler Murray makes sense there. Kyler Murray is going to go for the vet minimum. I would rather have Kyler Murray for the vet minimum and Alec Pierce than Daniel Jones.
Right.
And maybe I'm alone in that. I don't know, but this feels like the Colts outsmarting themselves and falling in love with a quarterback because they had 8 good games from him and feeling like, well, we finally got one, so we need to make this happen.
Yeah. And to your point, if I were running the Colts, I would not have done it. I would have franchise tagged Alec Pierce instead, and I would have said, we'll figure it out. Danny, come sign back with us. I don't know. If someone's going to go out there and offer you some crazy deal coming off an Achilles injury after playing 8 good games, all the power to you. Let's see what happens, right? But, to your point, Kyler Murray's available and Malik Will's available and guys are available that you think can play. So I wouldn't have done it, but the Colts are dumb. And so, of course, they did it because they're stupid. And so, it's just that this is what bad teams do. And the Patriots, for years, Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time. He's one of the greatest GMs of all time. But those last 5 years of his tenure were just god-awful. And this is what the Patriots would do, is they would, they would pick the wrong guy, and they would do – look at – this is what the Bengals just did. The Bengals just did to Trey Hendrickson what the Patriots did to Joe Thuney. In 2020, the Patriots had an opportunity to let Joe Thuney walk and get a third-round pick for him because they weren't going to sign anyone. What did they do? They franchise tagged him. And then what did they do? They let him walk the next year. What the hell are you doing? Why would you franchise tag him if that's what you were planning to do? Or why wouldn't you franchise him and then freaking trade him? It just doesn't make any sense. You kept him for a year, and I get where the Bengals are coming from, where they feel like we have to try to compete every year. I get that. But, trade him in the middle of the year then. Try to trade him to a contender somewhere. And get something back for him. The Patriots did this exact same thing with Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney walks in the offseason of 2021, and because the Patriots, and you pointed out, have one of the greatest, spending sprees of all time, they get nothing back for him. So you get nothing back for Joe Thuney. You would have gotten a third-round pick, and instead you get nothing. And it just that's the stuff for me that
nonsensical.
It's stupid, and this is what those bad teams do. And it's just, you hold on to a guy and hold on to a guy and hold on to a guy, and then finally you're forced to kind of do it. It's interesting because, Kirk Cousins did that in Washington, played under the franchise tag twice, I believe, right? And they moved him to before they moved him to Minnesota.
I believe, yeah.
And then Dak played under it, I think, twice before they signed him to his big deal. So, guys have done this before, but it's like the organizations are just stupid. Why? I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, we have there's a very clear way to do this. You have to be proactive and get ahead of situations. And that means making hard decisions sometimes, but sometimes you just got to do it now.
Yeah.
Can we touch on a couple other receivers?
Yeah. And then I think
there's only a couple other names. That are probably going to be of interest for the Patriots. There's three that stand out to me. Mm-hmm. Romeo Doubs is the next guy up pretty clearly to me.
Yeah.
After Alec Pierce, if you can't get him. And I don't like Doubs as much as I like Pierce. I just think he's a worse receiver, but I also think he's fine. So he's not as good as Stefon Diggs, but he's a real starting receiver in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He's going to get overpaid, but not by a crazy amount. He would make you better than you'd be if you didn't sign him, and you could still draft someone if you sign him. So
fair point. Yep.
Jawan Jennings, I don't know how interested they're going to be. He's 29, which scares me a little bit, but he is someone who is physical, is a blocker. Apparently, is such a trash talker that he gets into fights, and people on other teams hate him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, that's the
guy. The type of guy.
This is Mac Hollins-esque. I could see Vrabel absolutely loving this dude.
Yeah.
And then the other one's Rashid Shaheed, who is a burner. He is what you would be hoping Kyle Williams turns into. He's not as big of a target, so it's not as appealing as someone May is going to work with. And I think Pierce is someone who you can see a very easy path for Pierce to add more things to his game, I think, and become a more diverse receiver. I'm not so sure about that with Shaheed. He moves very well. He creates separation, but he's been largely a deep threat in his NFL career. The nice part for Shaheed is that he is a great returner as well. And if Shaheed's your kick returner, you might have the best special teams in the NFL because you're kind of starting the year, thinking you're going to get at least one punt return, one kick return for a touchdown between Marcus Jones and Rashid Shaheed. On those extra 12 points throughout the season will help you somewhere. I like Shaheed a lot. I'm curious what his market looks like. That he's very hard to price, and I didn't think Seattle got the most of him because that was an in-season trade, and they didn't ask him to do a lot.
Well, I think that that's a great point. The Shaheed one is really interesting because you don't have a kick returner right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're signing him to do more than be a kick returner, clearly, right? But it's like, he brings you that plus. It's Kyle Williams plus. I think the Kyle Williams, component is interesting because he feels like redundant to Kyle Williams, right? Where like it's just Kyle Williams, except he's a really good kick returner and he's a better receiver, right? So like, maybe you hope that Kyle Williams turns into that, but I don't think Kyle Williams has the wiggle that Shaheed has on those returns. So some guys just have that and some guys don't. Williams pretty clearly doesn't have it, and Shaheed does,
Well, I think one of the things, like, you could have two Alec Pierce body types out there if you want, two of those bigger guys, because they can block. I think having a lineup out there with Kyle Williams and Rashid Shaheed at the same time, just a little bit tougher because, like, these guys do one thing and everyone knows what that one thing is, and they're good at it. Like, I made a joke on Twitter last night that you could just sign Pierce and Shaheed, and those with Booty and Kyle Williams, you could just run 4 verts all day. And I'm sure you'd have some real fun moments if you did that. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah, agreed.
So then your concern becomes, all right, do you think that Shaheed's going to block Kyle Williams and stunt his development? Or is this going to be the type of thing where now Kyle Williams gets to watch a receiver in his mold in person, gets to learn with him, and this is going to enhance his development? I think you can go either way with that. I don't know how the team feels, but
and then it's like, do you want to spend that money on Shaheed and then basically say to Kyle Williams, like, we'll see you in 2 years? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
I will say, if it's Alec Pierce, if it gets up to like $32 million a year for him, and Shaheed's sitting there at like $15 million a year, I'm probably taking Shaheed, especially if you can use that extra $17 million and pick up an extra pass rusher with it.
I agree with you. Joshua here says, what about trading for Chris Olave? I don't hate that. I just worry about Chris Olave because his next hit could be the end of his career. So I wouldn't be giving up a ton of capital for him, but if you can get him for cheap, which I don't know why the Saints would trade him for cheap, because he's a very good wide receiver. And so the Saints have him under contract. It's kind of like, why would I move him if I already have him, right? Maybe they don't want to sign him to an extension and they figure we'll just get what we can for him. But I would assume that the Saints are looking at it saying, I'm not doing that. One guy I'll point out in free agency that I think is interesting, if you're looking to upgrade over Bob Douglas, if you look at your slot and you say, we like the traditional slot size, we want a traditional slot player, but we don't think Bob Douglas does that, I think Wan'Dale Robinson is an interesting name for that. 25 years old, he's still fairly young, had 140 targets in each of the last 2 years. 93 catches last year, 92 catches this year. So like, and then over 1,000 yards this year. He had 700 yards last year, but he's a guy that's gotten more successful as the years have gone on. His catch rate isn't high, but like, I'm not worried about that necessarily. So, I think that he's an interesting guy. I don't know if the Patriots are going to be interested in him. I don't know how much money he's going to get in the open market. I have no idea. But I just think that, if you're saying to yourself, we like the mold of someone like Pop Douglas, but we don't really like Pop Douglas as much, we need to upgrade that spot. I think Wan'Dale Robinson could be an interesting player for that, especially if it's a situation where, you get Alec Pierce, maybe you get him for $26 million and Wan'Dale Robinson's decently cheap, and you're able to kind of, go from there and say, you sign him for $8 million a year or something like that.
He's going to get.
I just don't know why anyone would do that. I would assume he's going to get a good amount of money.
My issue with Wan'Dale, like I'm very worried that he's a product of circumstance here, and that he is the only good receiver on the team. Like, does Pop Douglas look like that if he's the only good receiver on the team and he gets
getting 140
that many targets?
Yeah, it's possible.
Maybe. I like Wan'Dale. I like him coming out. I also get concerned. I look at, everyone in the NFL is going to be trying to beat that Seattle defense. This is now the mold. This is the template. And we saw it's basically a spin-off, a variation of what the Eagles did the year before. Mm-hmm. This is what's in vogue now. Part of that is that you have bigger slot defenders. And if you want to beat these types of defenses, you kind of have to be able to run against them. So the era of that shifty, undersized slot receiver kind of feels like it's over. It feels like we're leaning like you'd almost rather have Mac Hollins in that role because he can block than have Pop Douglas.
Yeah.
Just because, you're not – that guy's not going to see a lot of, like, man coverage. Or if he does, it's going to be against, like, a bigger guy who can kind of – Pop gets smothered sometimes by bigger guys. It's like we'd rather just have the big guy who can block and box out and find a hole in his zone when they play zone. I think that's where the NFL's leaning. Now, you could argue if the NFL's leaning that way, can you take advantage of a market inefficiency? Like you said, if Wandale is crazy cheap here because everyone's looking at it the same way, can you add him and say, all right, we're just going to find a way to make this work and scheme him up? Not opposed to that. I do think the path for the Patriots to beating this stuff, though, is just to get bigger, stronger, get a better blocking tight end in there, put Booty in the slot, who he's not tall, but he's got some weight behind him. I think that's like I think an idea. I in some ways my ideal lineup is if Kyle Williams is able to break out, it's going to be Kyle Williams, now like Pierce on the outside, Booty in the slot.
Yeah,
when you're in three receivers.
I think you're probably right about that. I will say two kind of crazy things, right? When we come back, the next time we're here, on Monday
night,
we'll have so many different.
We'll have answers.
Right? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about that. The legal tampering period starts Monday at noon. So those things are going to be flying in at 12:01. The Schefter bombs, the Shefty bombs are going to hit.
Somehow, despite the fact that these people, have never talked before at 12:01, they will have negotiated an entire contract.
Just talked to each other the first time,
They're just that in sync about what they want.
Yeah. By the way, Goalie says Mechie. Goalie mentions John Mechie. I absolutely love John Mechie. Love him. Just love him. I don't know if he's a fit for the Patriots, but like I'd take a flyer on John Mechie. I loved him coming out of school because he dealt with that cancer and he's back, but not maybe isn't fully back yet. So I'd be willing to take a flyer on him and kind of see where it goes.
That is in the category of competing for
for a roster spot. Right.
Yeah. I will say I see people in the chat talking about, will this guy, will they keep this guy or whatever? Like, I think it's worth remembering that the job right now is to assemble a 90-man roster. Training camp is when you decide the 53. And really it's 60-something when you include practice squad. Like that's where you do that narrowing down. And obviously you want to have an idea coming out of free agency and then again coming out of the draft of what you would like your final 53 to look like. You're going to have a general idea of, these are the guys we think are making this roster. These are the guys we want to earn roster spots. And there's going to be a little bit of that in there just from how you've invested in guys. But you're building a 90-man roster right now. You can keep Pop Douglas right now and cut him on August 27th.
Yeah, or trade him in the middle of camp or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So
these discussions we're having about playing time and rotations are all contingent on how these guys play in camp. Like, I don't think Pop Douglas or Kayshon Boutte have had the same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row at any point. They're finally getting to work with a quarterback consistently. What does that do for development? Maybe Pop comes in and looks a lot better. Maybe he comes in and it's like, well, he's as good as he's going to get. He's not a scheme fit anymore, and the guy we drafted is better now, so we're going to move on.
Right.
Both possible, and he's cheap, so you're going to entertain both until you see it play out on the field. Unless, he ends up as a trade chip here, which I think is absolutely possible.
Yep. Yeah.
More likely to be traded than Booty, 100%.
Yeah, I think so. But we'll see. The other thing I will say is that I am working on a mock draft. I know, Matt, you released a mock draft this week. I'm working on a mock draft for early next week, hopefully Monday morning, before free agency starts. And I think, a little spoiler alert here, I think that I'm going to be focused on making the Patriots defense look a little bit more like Seattle's defense.
Ooh. I think I know who you're taking in the first round.
So it should be fun. So anyway, so that's for you on Monday. Monday night we'll be back talking about hopefully some free agents that the Patriots have, quote unquote, agreed to terms with. Not yet, of course, but have, ironed out some deals, a whole handshake agreement, if you will. And so that will be Monday night, and we'll talk about that mock draft on Pat's pulpit as well. Because
are
why
we going to
not?
do a mock draft next Monday? That'll probably depend on how active the Patriots are in free agency, right?
100%. It's all going to depend on what it looks like. I think it still would be beneficial to do that if they sign Alec Pierce. I think if they sign some guys that maybe we don't expect, I think then maybe we'll spend a little bit more time talking about it. But I actually think it could be beneficial to like on the
Reset.
spot, hey, we already know
now.
They went out and signed this guy and this guy and this guy. Now we know based on what their needs are, we don't have to draft a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds, right?
Yep.
So, or maybe we will, but now we know, okay, they have Alec Pierce, and so they're going to go in a different direction or whatever. So, so we'll see. But
the funny thing is, if they sign Pierce and then still draft a receiver in the first,
yeah, that would be wild. That would be
crazy.
That would be unnecessary. But
look, if the guy the goal here is to build a good team. If you think the best guy on the board at 31 is a receiver, it's the end. Like you're going to have 2 or 3 receivers in the field almost every single snap.
Which is a fair point. Unless I think that Patriots are going to be aggressive early in the draft. I think that it makes a lot of sense with so many late picks. You have 2 4th-round picks. You have like 9 6th-round picks. It's not actually 9, but you have a ton of 6th-round picks. I think it makes sense to either A, move back from 31 into the early 2nd round and pick up some extra picks, and or B, move up in the 2nd round from 63 to somewhere else in the 50s, let's say. So let's say you make a pick at, 38 and then at 52. Now you feel like you're bridging that gap between the two and you're getting 2 really good players, and you're probably not giving up a ton extra to do that, right? And it could be a situation where Ty Simpson lasts to 31 and some team out there says, hey, man, we're going to take a shot on Ty Simpson and we want that extra 5th year just in case. So we're going to trade up into pick 31 to get Ty Simpson. And so we move up, Patriots move back to whatever, 37, 38, whoever's there. And then the Patriots kind of, they go from there, so we'll see. But that's kind of my thought. So,
Side note, worth saying that the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots right now on the roster would be Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
He does do it through as much as I like Boutte. He's never had 600 yards in a season. He's never averaged 40 yards a game in his career. He got bodied in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's
not a wide receiver 1.
No. Yeah, I think he's at best a wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
But if you sign Alec Pierce, I like Alec Pierce. I think he's a high-end wide receiver 2. I don't think he's a 1. Maybe he blossoms into a 1 for you, but he's probably a 2. And all right, if you have a high-quality 2 and, a mid-quality 2 or a low-quality 2 in Boutte, you still have needed receiver. And just because you address that in free agency does not mean you can't also address it in the draft.
It's very true. I just don't know if the talent is there for this year. But
that's what I'm saying. It's if the best guy on the board's a receiver, I'm not shying away from it, even if I sign someone in free agency.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with you. So, Well, all right. Well, that's what we got, people. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the craziness. Hopefully, a Monday afternoon. It's going to be crazy no matter what, but hopefully, it's Patriots crazy as well.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. So enjoy that, and we'll talk to you Monday night, breaking down the first day of legal tampering, and probably walking through a mock draft with you as well. Be good to each other, and go Pats.